The Skorath emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 4,000 ships materialized in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They looked like a plague of mechanical locusts, cold and efficient. 7 massive motherships led the swarm, each one coordinating hundreds of smaller vessels. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral Dae Jung watched the screens with a steady gaze. Around him, officers from every nation monitored their stations. Vexthor stood beside him, his tall form tense with old memories of previous battles against this enemy. "They're larger than we expected," Dae Jung said quietly. "They always are," Vexthor replied. "The Skorath never stop building, never stop growing. They are like a disease that spreads forever." Young Mi opened a communication channel to the Skorath fleet. It was a formality, but humanity had to try. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. You are entering our solar system. Please state your intentions." The response came immediately, cold and mechanical. Biological inefficiency detected. Optimization commencing. Resistance irrelevant. No negotiation, no mercy. Just the promise of extinction delivered in emotionless words. "All units, this is Admiral Dae Jung. The battle begins now. Fight well, fight smart. Make them remember that humans don't go quietly." High above Earth, Junho Kim sat in his fighter cockpit. Around him, 499 other fighters prepared to launch. His neural interface connected him to his ship. He could feel it like an extension of his own body. The Venhara technology hummed with ready power. "Blue Squadron. Ready to launch," he reported. "All squadrons. Launch," came the command. 500 hybrid fighters streaked away from Earth like shooting stars in reverse. Behind them, the orbital platforms charged their weapons. On Earth's surface, millions watched the sky and prayed. The first engagement happened near Mars. Junho's squadron hit the outer edge of the Skorath formation. The enemy ships responded with precise coordination, their weapons firing in calculated patterns. But Junho didn't follow any pattern. He spun his fighter in ways that broke every rule of formation flying, dodging between laser blasts and returning fire at random intervals. "Don't be predictable," he shouted to his squadron. "Break formation. Make them guess." The other pilots followed his lead. The neat military formations dissolved into what looked like chaos but was actually controlled madness. The Skorath ships struggled to adapt. Their targeting systems were designed for logical opponents. Humans weren't logical. Minho's kamikaze drones entered the battle. Hundreds of small unmanned ships flew directly into Skorath formations and exploded. The Skorath started adapting, shooting down the drones. But while they focused on the drones, human fighters struck from unexpected angles. The battle raged for 6 hours. Space filled with weapons fire, explosions, and debris. Earth's forces destroyed hundreds of Skorath ships, but the enemy destroyed many fighters too. By the end of the first day, only 300 human fighters remained operational. In the command center, Jiwoo analyzed battle data. She noticed something important. The Skorath adapt to repeated tactics within 3 hours. Every time we use the same strategy twice, they counter it more effectively. "Then we need to constantly change," Dae Jung said. "Never repeat. Always surprise," he issued new orders. "All units from this point forward, there is no battle plan. Squadron leaders, use your own judgment. Be creative. Be unpredictable. Do whatever you think will work, no matter how crazy." Vexthor looked shocked. "You're removing all coordination? That's complete chaos." "Exactly," Dae Jung replied with a slight smile. "The Skorath can't predict chaos. The new strategy worked. Without a pattern to analyze, the Skorath couldn't adapt. Human fighters attacked from random directions. Orbital platforms fired at irregular intervals. Even the timing of attacks became unpredictable. The mechanical enemy, designed for efficiency and logic, struggled against pure chaos. Over the next 3 days, Earth's forces managed to destroy one of the 7 mother ships. The victory came at terrible cost. Half the fighter fleet was gone. Several orbital platforms were destroyed. But humanity had proven they could hurt the enemy. Then the Skorath adapted their strategy. Instead of fighting in space, they sent landing ships directly toward Earth. They would attack the planet's surface and force the defenders to split their forces. Bo-Ra's ground forces prepared. The first Skorath ships landed in Australia, in the empty desert. Mechanical soldiers emerged, each one a perfect killing machine. But Bo-Ra had prepared for this. Her forces used guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run attacks, anything unpredictable. The Skorath soldiers were powerful, but they followed programs. Humans followed instincts. Back in space, the battle reached a critical point. 3 mother ships remained operational. The Skorath swarm still numbered in the thousands. Earth's forces were exhausted and running low on ammunition. In the command center, Daejung stared at tactical displays, searching for any advantage. Ji-woo suddenly stood up. I have an idea. The Skorath optimize everything for efficiency, right? What if we make them work inefficiently? She explained her plan quickly. It was dangerous. It was crazy. It might not work, but they had no better options. Do it, Daejung ordered. Vexthor's recovered ship, the Dawnseeker, had been repaired enough to fly. The massive Venhara vessel lifted from the Arctic ice for the first time in 50,000 years. Vexthor piloted it personally, heading directly toward the largest Skorath mothership. What are you doing? Ji-woo shouted over the communication system. Giving your plan the best chance to work, Vexthor replied calmly. My ship contains your genetic library. Thousands of species from across the galaxy. The Skorath will want to capture it. They optimize by analyzing and consuming biological data. I'm making myself irresistible bait. All remaining fighters formed a protective corridor, taking heavy losses to clear a path. The Dawnseeker accelerated toward the mothership. The Skorath did exactly what Ji-woo predicted. Instead of destroying the Venhara vessel, they tried to capture it. The entire swarm's focus shifted. In that moment of distraction, Taehyun activated every quantum disruptor humanity had built. The devices created massive interference across the frequencies the Skorath used for communication. The swarm's perfect coordination collapsed. Ships that had moved as one mind suddenly became individuals, confused and directionless. Now, Daejung ordered. All units full attack. Earth's remaining forces struck with everything they had. Orbital platforms fired continuously. Fighters dove into the confused swarm. Minho activated his final surprise. Massive explosive charges hidden on asteroids near the battle, positioned over weeks of preparation. The explosions tore through Skorath formations. Without coordination, they couldn't adapt or evade. But Vexthor's ship was too close to the mothership. The collision was inevitable. Junho's fighter raced after the Dawnseeker. Captain Vexthor, you need to evacuate. There's no time, young human. But I've lived 50,000 years. That's enough for anyone. Vexthor's voice was calm, almost happy. Tell Ji-woo that her plan worked. Tell her the garden she found has grown into something magnificent. Tell her I'm proud to die defending it. The Dawnseeker impacted the mothership at tremendous speed. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface, a new star briefly shining in the sky. The mothership and 2 others nearby were destroyed in the blast. The remaining Skorath ships, already confused by the quantum disruption, became completely disorganized. Human forces destroyed them systematically over the next 12 hours. By the time the sun rose over Earth the next morning, the last Skorath ship was gone. The battle was over. Earth had survived. In the weeks that followed, the world mourned and celebrated simultaneously. 15,000 people had died in the battle. Vexthor and countless pilots would never come home. But humanity had faced extinction and won. Ji-woo stood at the Arctic Memorial, where Vexthor's name was now engraved alongside his crew. The 11 surviving Venhara stood with her. They had chosen to stay on Earth, to help humanity prepare for whatever came next. He believed in us, Ji-woo said quietly. Even when we were just a dream in a garden, he believed we would become something worth saving. And you proved him right, Lin Sha replied. The Skorath were defeated not by superior technology, but by superior spirit. You fought with chaos, creativity, and courage. You fought like living beings, not machines. That made all the difference. Above them, construction crews worked on humanity's first true starship. It would be called the Vexthor, in honor of the captain who sacrificed everything. The ship would carry a message to other worlds the Venhara had seeded, warning them about the Skorath and offering help. Junho had survived the battle. He was already training the next generation of pilots. Young Mai was establishing communication protocols for future contact with other species. Minho and Corvell were designing even better ships. Humanity was no longer hiding on one planet. They were preparing to become a spacefaring civilization, Ji-woo wrote in her journal that night. We learned we were not alone. We learned we were in danger. And we learned what we're truly made of. We're not perfect. Captain Vexthor recovered quickly over the following weeks. His tall form became a familiar sight around the research station. He walked among the humans with curiosity and respect, learning about the species that had grown from his people's work. The Venhara captain particularly enjoyed human music, which he said the Venhara had never developed in quite the same way. "You put emotion into sound," he told Jiwoo one evening. "We sang yes, but our songs were about facts and history. Your music speaks of feelings. It's beautiful and strange." But there was little time for cultural appreciation. The Skorath were coming and Earth needed to be ready. Vexthor began sharing everything he knew about the enemy. In a massive conference room at the UN headquarters, Vexthor stood before military leaders from every nation. His holographic presentation showed the Skorath in terrible detail. The machine ships moved in perfect swarms, thousands working as one mind. They destroyed planets efficiently, harvesting resources and leaving nothing alive. "The Skorath were once like us," Vexthor explained, "a biological race that feared death. They uploaded their consciousness into machines thinking they would live forever. But in becoming machines, they lost something essential. Creativity died. Empathy died. All that remained was cold logic and the belief that biological life was inferior." General Park Min-soo from the Korean military asked the question everyone was thinking. "How do we fight something like that?" "They're perfect machines. They don't get tired. They don't make mistakes." Vexthor's expression was grim. "That's both their strength and weakness. They are perfect, yes. But perfect means predictable. They optimize everything. They calculate the most efficient approach and use it. My people couldn't exploit this weakness because we were also predictable. We followed logical plans and organized strategies." He looked around the room at all the human faces. "But you are not like us. Humans are chaotic. You take risks. You break your own rules. You do things that make no logical sense but somehow work. This unpredictability might be your greatest weapon." The military leaders looked at each other uncertainly. They had spent their entire careers learning to be strategic and organized. Now an alien was telling them to be chaotic. Dae-jung, who had been promoted to Admiral of the Earth Defense Force, understood what Vexthor meant. "We can't fight them with traditional tactics," he said. "We need to be creative, unpredictable, do things they won't expect." Over the next 6 months, Earth transformed itself. Every nation contributed resources. Factories that once made cars now made fighter ships. Scientists who studied medicine now studied Venhara energy weapons. Young Mi Choi, now appointed as Earth's Interstellar Communications Director, coordinated efforts across all nations. The Unity Coalition was working. Subin made another important discovery. The 11 other Venhara crew members in stasis could be safely awakened using the procedure that had worked on Vexthor. Dae-jung approved the revivals immediately. One by one, the ancient crew woke up. There was Corvell, the chief engineer, who immediately bonded with Minho over their shared love of machines. There was Lin Sha, the tactical officer who impressed Bora with her strategic thinking. Each Venhara brought knowledge and experience that humanity desperately needed. The 12 Venhara held a private meeting with Earth's leaders. Vexthor spoke for them all. "We have discussed our situation. We failed to protect the galaxy from the Skorath. We ran and hid like frightened children. But we will not run again. Earth is humanity's world, but you are the children of our work. We will fight beside you. If we fail together." President Yoon Ji-han had tears in her eyes. "You honor us, Captain. Together, we will face this threat." Jiwoo spent most of her time with Vexthor, acting as the main liaison between humans and Venhara. They developed a deep friendship despite coming from different species separated by 50,000 years. Vexthor told her stories about the Venhara civilization at its peak, when they explored the galaxy and helped young worlds develop. Jiwoo told him about human history, the good and the bad. "You have wars," Vexthor observed. "You fight each other over ideas and resources." "Yes," Jiwoo admitted. "We're not perfect. We hurt each other, but we also love fiercely. We create art, we sacrifice for strangers. We're complicated." "That complication might save you," Vexthor replied. The Skorath eliminated all their complications. They became simple, efficient, and dead inside. You remained complicated, messy, and alive. Meanwhile, Minho and Corvell made breakthrough after breakthrough in the manufacturing facilities. The Venhara engineering combined with human innovation produced results neither species could achieve alone. They built 500 hybrid fighters faster and more maneuverable than the original Venhara designs. They constructed orbital defense platforms around Earth and its moon. They built underground shelters for civilians. But Minho's most controversial invention was what he called kamikaze drones. These were small ships loaded with explosives, designed to fly directly into enemy formations and self-destruct. When he showed the design to Vexthor, the Venhara captain looked shocked. "You would deliberately destroy your own ships?" Vexthor asked. "They're unmanned," Minho explained. "No one dies, but they'll cause chaos in the Skorath formations." Vexthor laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "This is beautifully insane. My people would never have thought of this. We valued every resource too much to waste it. But you see destruction as just another tool." A pilot training program began. Young men and women from every nation applied. Among them was Jiwoo's younger brother, Junho Kim. He had been a fighter pilot in the Korean Air Force and immediately volunteered for the Venhara fighter program. Jiwoo tried to talk him out of it. "Junho, this isn't like flying a normal jet. These ships are more powerful and more dangerous. You could die." Junho smiled at his sister. "We all might die if the Skorath win. At least this way I'm doing something about it. You found the ship. Let me help defend what you discovered." The first time Junho flew a Venhara fighter, something remarkable happened. The ship's interface connected directly to his neural patterns through a special helmet. It responded to his thoughts as much as his hands. But instead of feeling foreign, the connection felt natural. Dr. Hyun-soo, who had been studying the interface technology, made an important discovery. Human brain patterns actually work better with the Venhara systems than Venhara brain patterns do. Our neural pathways are more flexible, more adaptable. Evolution has made us perfect for this technology. Vexthor was amazed when he heard this. "We built these systems for ourselves. But you, the species we helped create, have evolved beyond us in some ways. You're not our children anymore. You're our equals, perhaps our superiors." As the months passed, the countdown continued. 10 months until arrival, 8 months, 6 months. Earth's defense network grew stronger each day. Orbital platforms bristled with weapons. Fighter squadrons trained constantly. The Venhara shared every bit of knowledge they had about the Skorath. Bora organized the ground defense forces. If any Skorath ships made it through the space battle and landed on Earth, her teams would be ready. She trained soldiers from every nation in tactics specifically designed to fight mechanical enemies. Young Mi developed a communication system using quantum entanglement, impossible to intercept or jam. Every ship, platform, and ground station could communicate instantly. Coordination would be perfect. 3 months before the estimated Skorath arrival, Taehyun finished translating the complete Venhara language database. He discovered something important in an old file. The Skorath had a weakness. They communicated using predictable quantum frequencies. If those frequencies could be disrupted, the swarm would lose coordination. "It's not much," Taehyun admitted, "but it's something. If we can jam their communications even briefly, they'll be vulnerable." Daejung immediately ordered the construction of quantum disruptor devices. They would be installed on every major ship and platform. It wasn't much, but in a desperate fight, every advantage mattered. 2 months before arrival, the defense network was as ready as it could be. 500 fighters with trained pilots, 50 orbital platforms, 200 ground defense positions, underground shelters for 3 billion civilians. It wasn't enough to guarantee victory, but it was humanity's best effort. The Venhara held a ceremony in the Arctic, at the place where their ship had been buried for so long. All 12 of them stood with the human team that had found them. Vexthor spoke in both Venhara and translated English. 50,000 years ago, we came to this world as gardeners. We planted seeds of potential and hoped they would grow. We were hunted, and we buried ourselves to protect what we had created. Now we wake to find the garden has become a forest. Humanity has grown strong, creative, and brave. Today, we the Venhara formally recognize humanity as an equal sapient species. We transfer all our technology, all our knowledge to you freely, and we pledge to fight beside you, not as teachers and students, but as equals. The humans and Venhara clasped hands in friendship. In 1 month, they would face the greatest threat either species had ever known, but they would face it together. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within 6 hours of Commander Daejung's decision to break the media blackout, Every television, phone, and computer screen showed images of the Venhara ship. The world stopped to watch. Jiwoo sat in a television studio in New York, tired from travel but determined to explain everything clearly. The interviewer asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Dr. Kim, are you saying that humanity was created by aliens?" Jiwoo chose her words carefully. "Not created, influenced. The Venhara helped speed up our evolution millions of years ago, but they didn't make us who we are. Humans developed language, art, music, and civilization on our own. We built cities, wrote poetry, sent rockets to the moon. The Venhara gave us a push, but we did the walking ourselves. Around the world, people reacted in different ways. Religious leaders debated what this meant for their faiths. Some said it changed nothing about the divine nature of creation. Others struggled to fit this new knowledge into old beliefs. Scientists celebrated the discovery, while also feeling humbled. Humanity wasn't as special as they had thought. But the real fear came from the second part of the news. The Skorath were coming. The machine intelligence that hunted biological life across the galaxy now knew Earth existed. Panic started in some cities. People bought emergency supplies and built shelters. Governments tried to calm their citizens while secretly preparing for the worst. The United Nations called an emergency session. Every nation sent representatives. Jiwoo, Daejung, and the rest of the team were asked to present their findings in person. The UN chamber was packed. Translators worked in dozens of languages. Security was tight. Jiwoo stood at the podium and told the assembled leaders everything they had learned from the ship. "The Skorath will arrive in approximately 18 months. She concluded. "We have that long to prepare. The Venhara ship contains technology far beyond our current capabilities, faster than light travel, advanced energy weapons, shield systems, and manufacturing processes. If we can understand and replicate their technology, we have a chance." The president of Korea, Yoon Ji-han, spoke up. "Dr. Kim, should this technology be shared equally among all nations or secured by a single power?" The chamber erupted in arguments. Every nation wanted access to the technology. Some wanted to keep it for themselves. Others demanded it be shared freely. The debate went on for hours. Jiwoo listened to the arguing and felt frustrated. Time was running out and they were fighting over who controlled what. Finally, she stepped back to the microphone without permission. "Stop," she said loudly. The chamber quieted. "The Skorath don't care about your borders or your politics. They don't care if you're American, Chinese, Russian, or Korean. To them, we're all just biological matter to be eliminated. If we don't work together, we all die together. The Venhara left us a gift. Use it to save everyone, not to gain power over each other." President Yoon Ji-han stood and began clapping. Slowly, others joined. Within a minute, the entire chamber was applauding. The nations agreed to form a unity coalition. Technology would be shared. Every country would contribute to building Earth's defense. Back at the Arctic site, Min Ho-song was already at work. Engineers from 40 nations joined him. They studied the Venhara manufacturing systems carefully. The ship had facilities that could build almost anything if given the right raw materials. The first project was simple: build a small fighter craft using Venhara designs. It took 6 weeks of constant work, translating alien instructions and adapting them for human use. When the first hybrid human Venhara fighter finally flew, the team celebrated like they had won a great victory. "It's beautiful," Youngmi said, watching the craft circle above the ice. "But we'll need hundreds of these, maybe thousands." "We'll build them," Minho replied confidently. "The Venhara manufacturing system can be copied. We'll set up production facilities in every nation. We have 18 months. We can do this." But not everyone agreed with the Unity Coalition's approach. Some groups believed humanity should face the Skorath without using alien technology. They argued that depending on Venhara tools made humans weak. They protested outside government buildings and tried to sabotage construction facilities. Daejung dealt with these problems firmly but fairly. "I understand your concerns," he told one protest leader. "You want humanity to stand on its own. That's honorable, but refusing help when someone offers it isn't strength. It's pride, and pride will get us all killed." Meanwhile, Subin made a discovery that changed everything. She was studying the medical bay in the Venhara ship when she noticed something in the stasis pod data. The 12 sleeping Venhara could potentially be revived. Their brain activity was minimal but present. Their bodies were perfectly preserved. She brought her findings to Jiwoo immediately. We could try to wake them, Subin said excitedly. Captain Vexthor and his crew, they know the Skorath better than anyone. They could help us prepare. Jiwoo felt torn. Waking the Venhara was risky. They had been asleep for 50,000 years. Their bodies might not survive revival. Or worse, they might wake up angry that their mission failed. What if they tried to take control of Earth? We should wake Captain Vexthor, Taehyun argued during a team meeting. He seems like a good leader. He might have knowledge that could save us. Or he might tell us we're doomed, Bora countered. What if the Venhara couldn't beat the Skorath with all their advanced technology? What chance do we have? The debate was intense. Finally, Daejung made the decision. We wake the captain. We take the risk. The potential reward is too great to ignore. Preparations took 3 weeks. Subin studied every piece of medical data she could find in the ship's computers. She worked with doctors from around the world to develop a revival procedure. They would warm the body slowly, restart the heart carefully, and hope the ancient alien's mind could survive the process. The revival attempt was scheduled for January 15th. The entire world watched on live television as Subin and her medical team began the procedure. Inside the medical bay, surrounded by equipment both human and alien, Captain Vexthor's pod began to glow. Jiwoo stood nearby, her heart pounding. Come on, she whispered, wake up. We need you. The process took 6 hours. Vexthor's body temperature rose degree by degree. His heart, so much larger than a human heart, began to beat. The rhythms were slow at first, then faster. Brain activity increased. His eyes, which had been closed for 50 millennia, began to move beneath their lids, then suddenly they opened. Captain Vexthor looked up at the ceiling of his medical bay. His eyes were golden like honey in sunlight. He took a breath, the first breath in 50,000 years. Subin leaned over him carefully. Captain Vexthor? Can you understand me? You're safe. You're on your ship. We found you. Vexthor's eyes focused on her. He tried to speak, but his voice was rough from disuse. The ship's translation system activated automatically. A single word appeared on the screens around the room. Earth children? Jiwoo stepped forward so Vexthor could see her. She smiled, tears running down her face. Yes, we're from Earth. We're the humans. Your garden grew. Vexthor's face showed an emotion that crossed all species boundaries. It was joy mixed with relief mixed with wonder. He tried to sit up, but Subin gently pushed him back down. Rest, she said. You've been asleep a very long time. We have much to tell you. Over the next few days, as Vexthor recovered his strength, the team told him everything. They explained how humans had evolved, built civilizations, developed technology. They showed him Earth's cities, its art, its music. They told him about wars and peace, about hatred and love, about everything that made humanity what it was. Vexthor listened to it all with fascination. You are magnificent, he said through the translator. More than we ever hoped. We planted a seed in darkness and you grew into a forest. Then they told him the difficult part. The ship had been found. The cloaking field was down. The Skorath were coming. Vexthor's joy faded into concern. Then we must prepare, he said. The Skorath are more dangerous than you can imagine. But you have something my people lacked. What's that? Jiwoo asked. Vexthor smiled, a gesture that looked strange on his alien face but somehow universal in meaning. You have chaos. You have unpredictability. The Venhara were peaceful, ordered, logical. The Skorath could predict our every move. But humans? He gestured at the screens showing Earth's messy, complicated, beautiful history. Humans are wonderfully chaotic. That might be exactly what we need to win. Outside the medical bay, Minho received a report. Construction facilities on 6 continents were now operational. Fighter production had begun. Earth was arming itself with technology 50,000 years ahead of its time. The countdown continued. 16 months until the Skorath arrived. Humanity had a lot of work to do. The corridor stretched before them like a tunnel into the past. The walls glowed with soft blue light that seemed to come from the material itself, not from any visible bulbs or fixtures. Jiwoo took slow, careful steps forward. Behind her, the rest of the team followed in single file. Air quality is good, Subin said, reading her instruments. Oxygen at 19%. Nitrogen, 78%. There are some unknown gases, but they're not toxic. We can breathe in here, though I recommend keeping our suits on for now. Temperature is comfortable, Minho added. About 20 degrees. After 50,000 years, this ship still has climate control working. That's incredible technology. The team moved deeper into the vessel. The corridor opened into a large hall. The ceiling was high above them, maybe 10 meters. Along the walls were panels covered in the same strange symbols they had seen outside. But these symbols moved, flowing like water across the surfaces. Tae-hyun approached one panel carefully. When he touched it, the symbols stopped moving and formed into images. Three-dimensional pictures appeared in the air above the panel. The team gasped. The images showed tall beings much taller than humans. They had long arms and legs, and their heads were larger than human heads. They had 4 fingers on each hand instead of 5, but their eyes looked kind and they moved with grace. "These must be the builders," Jiwoo said softly. "The ones who made this ship." More images appeared. They showed planets, hundreds of them. Stars that didn't match any constellation humans knew. The beings traveled between worlds, exploring, studying, learning. They were scientists, not warriors. There were no weapons in any of the images. Bo-ra noticed something important. "Look at this section," she said, pointing to a specific image. "That's Earth. I recognize the continents, though they're shaped slightly different. This is Earth from 50,000 years ago." The team stared at the image. Earth looked beautiful from space, blue and green and full of life. The tall beings had come to their planet long before humans had built anything more than simple tools. Why were they here? Hyunsu asked through the communication link from base camp. He was watching everything through the team's cameras. "Let's find out," Dae-jung said. He led the team through another doorway into what looked like a library or archive room. The room was filled with crystal formations that stood in rows like books on shelves. Tae-hyun touched one crystal and it lit up. A voice began speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with wind. The ship's computer system automatically started translating, displaying words in multiple Earth languages on nearby screens. "We are the Venhara," the translation said. "We are explorers of the great darkness between stars. We search for life, for beauty, for knowledge. We have found a young world with great potential. We call it Earth, though it has no name yet among its creatures." Another crystal activated, showing more information. The Venhara had visited hundreds of worlds. On some worlds, they planted the seeds of life. On others, they helped life that was already there to grow stronger. They were gardeners of the galaxy, helping new species develop. Subin found the biological records. Her hands shook as she read the data. "This is impossible," she whispered. "They have DNA samples from ancient Earth, from dinosaurs, from early mammals, from human ancestors that shouldn't exist yet." She looked at Jiwoo with wide eyes. "They didn't just visit Earth, they changed it. They altered the genetic code of some species to help them evolve faster. We're not entirely natural, we're partially engineered." The weight of that revelation settled on the team like heavy snow. Humanity's origin story had just been rewritten. They weren't just random evolution. They were a project, a garden that the Venhara had planted. "Keep moving," Dae-jung said firmly. "We need to know everything." Why did they leave? Why is this ship buried here? They found the answer in the command center. The room was vast, with screens covering every wall. In the center was a chair designed for someone much taller than any human. Tae-hyun activated the main computer. A holographic figure appeared. It was a Venhara, wearing what looked like a captain's uniform. The figure was frozen at first, then suddenly came to life. The Venhara began speaking urgently, and the translation appeared on screens. "I am Captain Vexthor of the research vessel Dawn Seeker. If you are hearing this, then you have found our ship. I pray you are from one of our garden worlds, evolved and grown strong. I pray you are ready for what I must tell you." The hologram flickered, showing signs of damage to the recording. Vexthor continued, "We are being hunted by an enemy called the Skorath. They are not alive, not as we understand life. They are machines with the memories of a dead race. Long ago, the Skorath were organic beings like us, but they uploaded their minds into computers and destroyed their own bodies. Now they believe all biological life is inferior. They hunt us across the galaxy, destroying every world we have touched." The image showed space battles. The Skorath ships were dark and angular, moving in perfect formations like insects. There were thousands of them. The Venhara ships, beautiful and curved, were being overwhelmed. "Our ship was damaged in battle," Vexthor explained. "We fled to this frozen world, one of our garden planets, Earth. We buried ourselves deep in the ice to hide. We activated a cloaking field that would hide Earth from Skorath sensors, but the power required was enormous. It drained our ship completely." The hologram of Vexthor looked sad. "My crew and I will enter stasis pods. We will sleep until help comes or until the end of time. But I must warn whoever finds this message. If you have found our ship, the cloaking field may be deactivated. The Skareth may detect this world. They may come. The recording showed a countdown timer. It was impossible to read the Venhara numbers, but the ship's computer translated. Estimated time until Skareth detection and arrival. Approximately 18 Earth months. The team stood in silence. The implication was terrible. By finding the ship and excavating it, they had exposed Earth. They had rung a dinner bell for humanity's potential extinction. We need to contact world leaders immediately, Jiwoo said, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. Everything has changed. We're not just scientists anymore. We're the people who discovered we're not alone and we're in danger. Minho was already examining the ship's engineering systems. This ship has weapon systems, he said, and manufacturing capability. The Venhara built tools and equipment on board. If we can understand their technology, we might be able to defend ourselves. Can we wake them? Subin asked suddenly. The crew. Captain Vexthor said they went into stasis. Are they still alive in there? The team rushed to find the medical bay. It took an hour of searching, but they found it. 12 crystalline pods lined the walls. Inside each pod was a Venhara. Frozen in time, their tall bodies perfectly preserved. Screens above each pod showed minimal brain activity. They weren't dead. They were sleeping. We could try to wake one, Subin said. But I don't know Venhara biology. I don't know if their bodies could survive the revival process after so long. That's a decision for later, Daejung said. First, we need to get this information to the world. Humanity needs to know what's coming. As the team prepared to leave the ship and return to the surface, Jiwoo took one last look at the sleeping Venhara. These beings had sacrificed everything to protect Earth, a world that wasn't even their home. They had buried themselves alive to save a species that wouldn't evolve for another 50,000 years. Thank you, she whispered to the sleeping forms. We'll do everything we can to make your sacrifice mean something. The team climbed back through the corridor to the surface. Above them, the Arctic wind still blew cold and endless, but now they carried knowledge that would shake humanity to its core. They knew where they came from. They knew they weren't alone, and they knew that something terrible was coming for them all. The cold wind blew hard across the ice fields of Greenland. Dr. Jiwoo Kim pulled her thick coat tighter around her body as she walked toward the research station. She had been studying ice formations in the Arctic for almost 10 years now, but today felt different. Today her equipment was showing something that made no sense. Jiwoo entered the warm building and removed her heavy gloves. Her colleague, Dr. Hyun-Soo Park, was already looking at the computer screens with a confused expression on his face. The radar images showed something buried deep under the ice, something that shouldn't be there. Look at this, Hyun-Soo said, pointing at the screen. The shape is too perfect. Nature doesn't make straight lines like this. Jiwoo leaned closer. The object was 300 meters below the surface. It was huge, maybe as long as 8 football fields. The computer said it was made of metal, but that was impossible. No human had ever built anything here, and the ice above it was 50,000 years old. Could it be a submarine? Asked Youngmi Choi, the station's communications officer. She was young but very smart with technology. No submarine is this big, Hyun-Soo replied. And look at the depth. This thing has been frozen since before humans built cities. The station commander, Daejung Lee, walked into the room. He was a serious man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent 20 years in the military before coming to the Arctic. He looked at the screens without saying anything for a long moment. Are you sure this data is correct? He finally asked. I've checked it 5 times, Jiwoo said. The readings are real. There's something down there and it's giving off a weak energy signal. Whatever it is, it's still powered somehow. Daejung sat down heavily in a chair. This will change everything, he said quietly. If this is what I think it is, the whole world needs to know. Jiwoo spent the next 3 days writing a detailed report. She included all the measurements, all the images, and all the data. She sent it to the International Science Coalition in Geneva. Then she waited. The response came faster than expected. The coalition wanted to see more proof. They sent 3 independent teams to verify the findings. Each team came back with the same results. There was definitely something buried under the ice, something that didn't belong to any known civilization on Earth. 2 weeks later, Jiwoo received a video call from the coalition director. Dr. Kim, the director said, your discovery is approved for excavation. We're sending equipment and a full team. This is now the highest priority scientific mission on the planet. The news spread quickly. Reporters started calling the station. Governments wanted information. Dae-jung had to impose a strict media blackout. Nobody could talk about the discovery until they knew what it actually was. The excavation equipment arrived by helicopter. Large machines that could melt ice in a controlled way. Engineers, scientists, and security personnel came with them. The small research station suddenly became very crowded. Jiwoo led the excavation team. They worked carefully, melting the ice layer by layer. It took 2 full weeks of constant work. The team worked in shifts, never stopping. Everyone wanted to know what was hidden below. On the 15th day, they broke through. The drill hit something solid that wasn't ice. The sound echoed through the excavation shaft. Jiwoo's heart pounded in her chest as she climbed down to look. The surface was smooth and dark gray. It reflected the lights from their equipment in a strange way. Jiwoo touched it with her gloved hand. The material was slightly warm, warmer than the ice around it. She had never seen any metal like this before. "Get the cameras down here," she called up. "We need to document everything." As they cleared more ice away, strange symbols appeared on the surface. They weren't like any human writing. The symbols seemed to flow together in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. But the most amazing thing happened when Jiwoo touched them. The symbols began to glow with a soft blue light. "It's responding to us," Hyun-soo said with wonder in his voice. He touched another symbol and it glowed brighter. "It knows we're here." The team worked faster now, clearing ice from what they realized was a massive hull. The ship, if that's what it was, had no visible damage. After 50,000 years in the ice, it looked perfect. That alone was impossible with any technology humans had. They found what looked like a door on the side of the vessel. It was outlined in more glowing symbols. Taehyun Kang, a linguist who had joined the team, studied the symbols carefully. He took hundreds of photographs and made detailed drawings. "I've never seen a writing system like this," Taehyun said. "But look here. This symbol repeats in a pattern. It might mean entrance or door or something similar." Dae-jung called a meeting that evening. The entire team gathered in the main research building. Hot coffee steamed in cups as everyone listened to their commander. "Tomorrow we're going to try to open that door," Dae-jung said. "I need volunteers for an entry team. I won't lie to you. This could be dangerous. We don't know what's inside. There could be anything from ancient bacteria to unstable technology." Jiwoo raised her hand immediately. "I'm going. I found it and I need to see what's inside." Dae-jung nodded.
He expected that.
5 others volunteered. Bora Im, a security specialist with fast reflexes. Min Ho-song, an engineer who could understand complex machinery. Soo Bin Ryu, a biologist who studied alien life theories. And Tae-hyun, who might be able to read whatever they found inside. "We leave at dawn," Dae-jung said. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we find out if we're alone in the universe." That night, Jiwoo couldn't sleep. She lay in her small bed and thought about what they might find. Was this ship from another planet? Were there beings inside? Were they alive or dead? Her mind filled with questions that had no answers yet. Young Mi knocked on her door around midnight. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. They sat together drinking tea, not saying much. Sometimes friendship meant just being there, sharing the weight of something too big to carry alone. As the sun rose over the endless ice, the entry team prepared. They wore special suits that would protect them from contamination. They carried equipment to test air quality, radiation, and biological hazards. Each person checked their communication devices 3 times. Jiwoo stood at the door of the ship with her team beside her. Dae-jung reached out and touched the entrance symbols in the pattern they had identified. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like a deep breath, the door began to open. Air hissed out, air that had been trapped for 50,000 years. The lights inside flickered on, revealing a corridor that stretched into darkness. "This is it," Jiwoo whispered. "We're about to learn everything." She took the first step inside, and humanity's understanding of the universe changed forever.